listening to Earth Oddity, a weekly odyssey into all the oddity planet Earth has to offer. And now, serving it up are Christopher Tiny Sullivan and
some other guy. John Horton, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm great. I was not expecting that.
Everyone out there listening, please don't turn off your cell phones. Don't turn off podcatchers. Don't freak out. John Long has not quit the podcast, or at least not yet. He was traveling this weekend. He was in Talladega, and there was just no way that he was going to be able to make it back in time. So I went out, found someone to fill in for him, and I got the very best I could do.
The other four people didn't answer the phone, but the fifth guy is here.
So we have the other John. We have John Horton. How you doing?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
So in preparation, I was listening to last week's podcast, so I went and I binge watched The Bachelor. So I will be prepared for any and all Bachelor questions that I'm sure are gonna pop up during this episode. So
yeah. So onward and upward. We had some good news, or well, not some good news, but we had some very odd news. I'm going to start off with this one. Did you see this story about this guy who was attacked by his girlfriend with a samurai sword?
No, I missed that one.
This was a story actually from last week, and then ultimately I was like, you know what? I can't poke fun. The guy at last week, he was still really bad hurt, and I wasn't going to, laugh at someone else's misfortune. But he has woke up and he has done an interview, and he has he's had some things to say to the press that cannot go unmentioned. So the name of the headline here is "Boyfriend Who Survived Samurai Sword Attack, quote, it scared the living poop out of me." This comes from the Oregonian. Alex Lovell nearly lost his fingers, his life, and he appears to have lost the woman he loved. Otherwise, as the Camus man is feeling pretty good. This is his quote right here. "I was just so proud for beating this samurai wannabe crazy lady with hate in her heart," Lovell 29 told the Oregonian in a Facebook message exchange Wednesday. "I've been preparing my whole life for something like this." So,
how does one actually prepare for a situation like this?
Well, he actually brings that up. We'll get into that in a minute, but I wonder, the way he's talking, it sounds like he just knew it was only a matter of time before some woman turned on him, the way he's talking here. But the woman, Emily Javier, 30, his girlfriend of 2 years, is facing attempted murder charges after she told police and a 911 dispatcher that she attacked and repeatedly slashed at him with a samurai sword during the wee hours of March 3rd. The incident has drawn national and international headlines. It's also landed Lovell in the hospital, where he remains recovering from multiple wounds and lacerations. In an interview with the police after the attack, Javier claimed that she found a Tinder dating app on his phone, and he also has a penchant for playing too many video games.
Well, there you go.
So
off with his head.
He has denied cheating on his girlfriend, and he gives pretty good reason for not doing it. He says that the app was on his phone from before he ever met her. And he spent, get this, 12 to 13 hours a day playing Player Unknown Battleground, which is apparently a computer game where players parachute onto an island and they try to find weapons like Survivor, and the island gets smaller as they play. It's typically referred to as PUBG. But this dude is spending 12 to 13 hours playing this game. So he says, I barely had time to hang out with my girlfriend, let alone cheat on her with somebody else. Which, if he's telling the truth, he's got a point.
That is a defense. I'm not sure that's a good defense, but
Lovell here refers to himself as an athlete. Have you ever heard of the term?
Not. In all of my gaming experience, I've never heard the term athlete.
Apparently, it's not an athlete as in someone who plays sports, but an athlete is
e-gaming. Yeah,
exactly. It's an athlete who plays video games. He says, or this is her. She said she saw that the Tinder dating app was on his phone, and then she says that she saw scratches on his back, and then she found red hair, in the couple's shower drain, which wasn't hers because her hair's dyed green.
Oh, well.
Dead giveaway. So,
see, you get the funny articles. You gave me all the articles of death.
Oh, sorry. Well, I tell you, it was a grim week last week. I've got some of those too. Real quick, her anger peaked on the night of March 2nd when he came home and he totally ignored her. At about 9 o'clock, she went into the couple's bedroom, and there she had taped a samurai sword and 2 knives to the side of her bed, and she decided that was the night she was going to do it. Later, he came in and he drifted off to sleep. She hid his phone so that he wouldn't be able to call for help.
Great.
And at that point, she grabs the sword and she attacks him. But this is Lovell talking. He says he woke up being attacked by Javier and his instincts kicked in, and he instantly drew on a lifetime of kung fu films and martial arts training. She, quote, woke the dragon. And he was able to Wing Chun his way to survival, which apparently Wing Chun is a Chinese martial art that focuses on close quarters combat.
No.
Don't know if you knew that.
No.
He says he got her into a bear hug. Quote, I saw the look in her eyes and it scared the living poop out of me, he said. I told her I loved her and that she was killing me and she needed to call the police or I was going to die. The distraught woman... She did convince him. She called police. She went out there and met him. She was, this is where it gets a little graphic. She was covered in blood. She thought he was dead, and she said that he had to go in there and help him, which, I mean, he's saying he won a fight, but here it sounds like she left him for dead. I don't know which is the case.
Well, who would want to admit to being beat up with your girlfriend by a sword? I mean...
I don't know. She had a big old samurai sword. I think you got a little bit of... And you were sleeping, so I don't know, but... she nearly cut off his left middle ring and index fingers.
I didn't know where we were going with that.
And and she also, he had a slash on his leg. He got a slash upside of his head. It was pretty rough. Said that he's not going to be playing PUBG for a while because he anticipates a long road to recovery, and it could be 6 months before he's walking again. And he will require extensive physical therapy to regain the full use of his hands, which he had said earlier in the article that he trained his body for expert mouse moves.
Losing 3 fingers, that'll put a
damper on the kibosh on your gaming.
On your micro right there.
Yes. The feeling I had when I won the fight with my bare hands is just the absolute best feeling. I've played all sorts of sports, and I've won big games, and I've landed some pretty decent tricks on my snowboard. But this was way better than all that.
He may have won this fight, but he is losing at life. I can tell you that.
And he's probably going to be losing at PUBG for a while. He was asked if they were still an item, and he says, well, I haven't spoken to her, if that's what you mean, LOL. She called the authorities and saved my life, so I hope that counts for something. It's a bit complicated, but I assume she needs some help. So he's surprisingly chill about the whole incident.
What a train wreck.
That is a train wreck, my friend. What you got?
Well, I've got a great article for you. It's so uplifting. Well, this one's not as bad as some of the others, but this one covers a Romanian man. Well, the title is Romanian Court Tells Man He Is Not Alive. And this guy says, I'm officially dead, although I'm alive. I have no income. And because I'm listed as dead, I can't do anything. So evidently this dude, he leaves Romania, and he goes to Turkey, and he starts him up a business over there. Well, the one little problem, his passport and his visa expires. Uh-oh. So the law comes in and says, hey, you got to go. So he goes back to Turkey thinking, oh, everything's going to be great. I'll just renew my passport. Well, while he's been gone for all these years, it says...
while he was gone, if I'm not mistaken, his wife.
Yeah, it says he was trying to overturn his death certificate obtained by his wife after he had spent more than a decade in Turkey, during which time he was out of contact with his family. The court told him he was too late to appeal and would have to remain officially deceased.
Stench.
Oh, man.
So, it says his wife had argued in court that having heard nothing from her husband since 1999, she assumed he had died in an earthquake while in Turkey. The paper said, dude believes she sought the death certificate in order to annul the marriage and allow her to remarry.
So it sounds like he just up and leaves her. He starts another business somewhere else, and so she had him declared dead so she could marry somebody else.
Pretty much.
And then he gets shipped back.
So at first you're thinking she's
like,
the shady one, but this dude just he told her to kick rocks, and he decided he'd go somewhere, and so he starts his new life in Turkey and then gets deported. So,
man, so the dude is there, and he's been declared dead, and they're telling him in court that you can't, you're legally dead, and that's not going to change.
And you can't appeal. The decision's final.
Oh, man.
So I don't know what a guy like that's supposed to do.
Yeah, what do you do with that? It's like, I guess the court is like, we have spoken.
Yeah, I guess so. Now, I know it's probably your turn, but on an unrelated story, but
yes.
of equally importance of death, is
this is precious.
A horror story from a funeral home. It says, funerals are not supposed to be described as a horror story, yet that is the exact term a family used after a privately run funeral home in Nova Scotia accidentally cremated their family member's body. On top of that, not only did the funeral home burn the wrong corpse, but they also showed a deceased woman's family 2 bodies, one wearing the family member's clothing, before admitting their mistake.
So they got the 2 bodies swapped up. One that was supposed to be cremated, they prepared for a funeral, and then the one that was supposed to be prepared for a funeral got cremated.
Now, there's some things that you probably want to double check. That whole measure twice, cut once kind of thing. Well,
right.
You may want to check 3, 4, 5 times before burning. How about that one?
Oh, man. Classic mix-up.
Oh, yeah. It says Bennett's husband was the first to find out the body wasn't of his late wife, but of a different woman he had never seen before.
Imagine that. Coming in to view the body.
Oh, now this
like,
this wasn't like a couple of days before the wake or anything. Oh no. This happened just shortly before the open casket visitation began.
Oh, no.
And thankfully, the funeral parlor acknowledged their mess up to the family. So they then wheeled out the stranger's body and brought in a new one to take its place. But the thing is, while this body was wearing their family member's clothes, it still wasn't her.
The wrong body.
Right.
Oh, no.
So they showed 2 bodies, but burnt the correct body.
Oh, if you're the funeral director, at this point, do you just try to maybe convince them, no, that's them? Death takes its toll on people, and sometimes they look different, but we got the right one.
Well, you're not in a good frame of mind to start with when a loved one dies,
right.
So you don't need this added stress to the situation.
No.
So I would call that the former funeral director at this point.
If it wasn't so tragic, and I don't want to laugh at the family's misfortune, because I'm sure that it's probably very traumatic for them. They've already lost a family member, and now they're having to go through this circus act of trying to find the right person, and then come to find out that the right person was cremated and wasn't supposed to be.
I mean, how do you come back from an error like that?
I don't know. I tell you what, I hope that if that was me, that I would probably try to get a free funeral out of the thing first.
Right.
But after that, I hope that I would, maybe be able to.
Maybe they were like, well, here's a coupon, 10% off your next funeral.
I would be so mad if that was the case. I'd be like, no, it's going to be free.
Okay, 25% off your next funeral. What a bargain.
Oh, man, that is that's something else. This is interesting, and you work in tech support, don't you?
Yes, I'm in technology.
Okay, so I'm very interested to hear your take on this. A biohacker who inserted a travel card chip into his body gets fined for not having his ticket. Wait till you hear this guy's name. This comes from Mashable.com. This is an Australian man. His name is Meow Ludo Disco Gamma Meow Meow. In parentheses, it says here, yes, that's his real name.
I'm pretty sure you just made that up.
Meow Ludo Disco Gamma Meow Meow. It says it right there. He has been in a legal dispute with public transport authorities over not having his ticket. Meow Meow argued he did have a valid ticket, but it was just implanted inside of his hand. The biohacker inserted a near-field communication chip, or an NFC chip, coated with a biocompatible plastic into his hand last year So he didn't have to use the card, and the chip was from an Opal card, Sydney's equivalent to London's Oyster. So I'm assuming this guy basically, he got the card that you scan to ride public transport, but I guess he takes a jump on the mark of the beast, and he just scans his hand.
Why worry about just carrying a card with me when I can have it in my hand all the time?
I can just implant it in my body. Exactly. Still, Meow Meow, he pled guilty on Friday morning to Newtown local court to the charges of using public transport without a valid ticket and not producing a ticket for transport officers, resulting in a $220 fine and $1,000 in legal cost, according to ABC News. Which, why did he plead guilty if he has the card? It's just in his hand,
That's kind of the problem with technology. As things advance, the laws are kind of behind the times. So he was guilty of not having the physical ticket. I'm sure that's what the law reads. Yeah. But here, he's got the electronics in his hand, ready to go.
This is terrible. Forgive me, but what if he put the chip in his middle finger? So when people has to see it, he showed it to them. It says here, Meow Meow's lawyer argued the introduction of contactless payment through services like MasterCard means transportation laws should allow all technology, including implants, to be used as tickets. The judge in the case, Michael Quinn, said that Meow Meow, which I can't get over the dude's name, Meow Ludo Disco Gamma Meow Meow. It's awesome. He has to respect current laws, and even if one day they may be changed to include all sorts of tech. While disappointed, Meow Meow will replace the Opal card chip with another that will hold information like credit cards and memberships. And the future, he says, the future is coming whether legislators like it or not. So, unfortunately, sir, you're not allowed to have a chip implanted in your hand. I guess you're just going to have to carry the card in your wallet like all the other dinosaurs out there.
That is crazy. And what do? One of the big problems of RFID is hackers. They can have a scanner, and this is kind of the problem with a lot of identification type things. They scan your chip, and now they've got your ID. Well, now you got to go rip that chip out of your hand and stick a new one in there. So it's probably not the best. I don't think he thought this whole thing out thoroughly.
Right. Well, there's some people out there who just they want to be on the cutting edge that they're willing to,
Well, a lot of people that I've run into in technology, and when a new piece of technology comes out, rather than asking how can we fit our current needs, what technology will help us do that, rather they look at, here's a new piece of technology. What way can we shoehorn this in to my organization and make it work?
Right.
Well, sometimes you fall flat.
Man, speaking of technology, did you?
Well, this is about the longest article I've ever read, but I'll just
feel free to summarize.
Oh yeah, the startup accelerator Y Combinator is known for supporting audacious companies, and it's in its popular 3-month boot camp. Yet there's never been anything quite like Netcomb, though. It says next week. At YC's Demo Days, Netcomb's founder is going to describe his technology for exquisitely preserving brains in microscopic detail using a high-tech embalming process. Then the MIT graduate will make his business pitch. As his website says, what if we told you we could back up your mind?
Right.
So,
kind of like iTunes can back up your phone.
So it sounds like
to back up people's brains.
Well, it sounds like a good idea.
Right.
When you back up your iPhone, you've got a copy. Well, there's a catch. It says the only problem is they need a fresh brain.
Right.
And in order to have a fresh brain, they have to be the one to kill you. So basically,
this process of backing up your brain is fatal.
It is 100% fatal, the article says. That's why we are uniquely situated among the Y Combinator companies. Well, I guess you are. You're the only one that's killing everybody you deal with.
I tell you what, I bet they have great customer satisfaction surveys. I bet they don't have one single complaint.
Not a single one. the company is planning. It says the story has a grisly twist. For the process to work, essentially the brain needs to be fresh. The company says its plan is to connect people with terminal illnesses to a heart-lung machine in order to pump its mixture of scientific embalming chemicals into the big cardioid artery in their neck while they are still alive, though under general anesthesia.
Right. So kind of a situation where grandma, who we love, is, you know, kind of on death's doorstep, and we're just going to go ahead and back up her brain.
Grandma better have some funds available because
Right.
they're not doing it on the cheap.
How much would it be to for these people to kill me and back up my brain?
Well, they've got a line going. It says that they're demanding just a mere $10,000 deposit, but it is fully refundable if you change your mind.
And after that, they laugh maniacally.
It says so far 20 people have done so. One of them is Stan Altman, a 32-year-old investor who is one of the creators of the Y Combinator program. Of course, he's one of the guys involved.
Okay, so I'm guessing that they haven't backed up his brain, but he's just paid to have it done.
Right. He's
Okay.
in line. He's in
Gotcha.
line in case the time comes. He's prepared.
Interesting.
He said, I assume my brain will be uploaded to the cloud.
To the cloud.
Everything's better in the cloud.
So basically, like the Matrix, like they're trying to get to the point where they can simulate someone's consciousness on a hard drive somewhere. Am I understanding that correctly? Is that the goal of this?
Well, basically they've said, doctor-assisted suicide is bad. How can we make it worse? We'll just put it under the guise of backing up someone's brain.
Right. This isn't the first time I've heard of something like this. I mean, this new startup, they're new, but the idea of like backing up someone's consciousness, which FYI, science doesn't even really know what that is yet, but the idea of, uploading it, it's not just the Matrix. There's been a lot of Hollywood movies that have kind of toyed around with this idea. What are your thoughts about that?
Well,
because even if you could do it, hypothetically, let's say you could back up someone's brain on a hard drive, it's still not them.
No.
It's a simulation of them, right?
Right. And the article did mention that.
Yeah.
It may, I can't locate it right now, but it made the thing that you will be brought back to smell the roses later on, but it won't really be you.
Yeah, it won't be
smelling
you.
them.
It'll be a simulation of you.
Right.
Almost a technological ghost of sorts.
Yeah. So let's say they bring you back in 100 years when technology is advanced, but all of your friends, family, children, grandchildren are dead now.
Right.
It seems pretty grim. I don't know if I would want to be brought back under such a situation. So.
Well, fortunately, it wouldn't be you.
No, there is that.
But you would feel bad for the tech John Horton in the computer.
Right. So I could see, there've been a lot of movies about that where
Right.
you can spin somebody up so that you can extract information maybe of their, right as they died, so you
Right.
can find their killer or whatever. But
there was one movie a while
Seems
back
hinky.
called Source Code. Do you remember
yes,
that? Did you see
I've
that?
seen Source Code. Yes.
Yeah. It was kind of that same thing. It was a little different because they kept sending him back, which that didn't really make. I guess the whole movie didn't make sense, but basically it's the idea of this dude, he was in a bad accident, or was it a terrorist attack?
I can't remember. I remember
I think he was severely injured in a terrorist attack, but they was able to bring his brain back somehow, and they were interrogating him in a computer to find out who did it, I think.
Yeah. There was an explosion on a train, and he was trying to get to the bottom of how it happened, but while that premise sounds good, the way things unfold in the movie, there's some decisions made, and you're like, this is a horrible ending. Oh,
yeah.
The ramifications of what goes on in this movie are terrible.
Futurama, remember? Did you ever watch that? They had the floating heads,
right?
Like 1,000 years in the future, or whatever.
And they've always made fun that supposedly Walt Disney had his head frozen or whatever,
right?
And they actually play on that in some kids shows that I've seen back when my kids were younger. They would watch. They actually break in, I think, to Disney, and they're going to try to steal the brain or whatever, steal the head.
Right. Well, and this is platypus milk. How it could combat superbugs.
So if the breast milk thing from the other day wasn't good enough, now we're going to cover.
Now we're still talking. Well, I guess it's not breast milk, because as I learned from this article, platypuses don't have teats. But wow. It is milk from platypuses. Here we go. Platypus milk could help combat one of humanity's looming problems, antibiotic resistance, scientists say. The weird creatures have a duck's beak and venomous feet and are one of only 2 mammals able to lay eggs. Australian scientists discovered in 2010 that the semi-aquatic animal's milk contains a potent protein that may be able to fight superbugs. They've now identified why and say that it could lead to the creation of a new type of antibiotic. Platypuses are monotremes, which is a tiny group of mammals able to lay eggs and produce milk at the same time. Like I said earlier, platypuses don't have teats, so instead they concentrate milk into their belly and feed their young by sweating it out. So they sweat milk, which sounds gross, but that's how they do it.
If this article wasn't weird to start with, now they're sweating the milk. Okay.
Yes. Okay, so this feeding system is thought to be linked to its antibacterial properties, according to scientists. Platypuses are such weird animals, and it could make sense for them to have weird biochemistry. Dr. Janet Newman from Australia's National Science Agency said, "It's believed mammals evolved teats or nipples because it was a sterile way to deliver milk to their young. But platypus milk being exposed to the outside leaves their babies in danger of being in contact with harmful bacteria." So that kind of makes sense. Like, sweating out milk and feeding it to your kids isn't the most sanitary way. So it would kind of make sense that their milk would adapt to be like antibacterial so that, they don't infect their babies with bacteria coming off their feet.
Well, I can just see the baby platypus there. He's getting hungry and he's like, "Hey, Mom, how about you go for a jog or something? Long in the hot sunshine."
Yes.
"So I can lick your sweaty body because I need some milk."
Dude, that's disgusting.
The unique antibacterial protein their milk contains might be the animal's defense against that. Deakin University junior Dr. Julie Sarup believes. "We are interested to examine the protein structure and characteristics to find out exactly what part of the protein was doing that. The researchers found a quirk they say has never been seen in more than 100,000 different protein structures known to biologists. It was dubbed the Shirley Temple in reference to its ringlet formation after the 1930s child star. So I guess the protein, it looks like red curly hair, I suppose." Dr. Newman said the find will go on to inform other drug discovery work. It says here, the World Health Organization released a report in 2014 urging action to be taken to prevent the post-antibiotic era, where common infections and injuries might have been treatable for decades, once again can kill. Antimicrobial resistance occurs when bacteria build up a tolerance against certain antibiotics and pass that resistance on to the next generation of bacteria, producing superbugs. So, I don't know if you're familiar, but we've been using antibiotics in all kinds of stuff. We've been using it in soaps and all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah, there's no problem with that at all, right?
And also the livestock that we eat, we give them tons of antibiotics because when the animal's ripe for slaughter, it's like it gets like what, a 5% muscle mass or something, so you get a little bit more. And some scientists think that as a result of us constantly using antibiotics, it's like, cause these, bacteria to build up immunities. And then all of a sudden, somebody catches what they call a superbug and they can't treat them, and it's been a real concern among some doctors that, hey, all this stuff that we had beat, it's going to make a comeback.
Well, I don't have anything to worry about because I'm going to get me a platypus and lick it daily.
Exactly. Public Health England says up to a fifth of antibiotic prescriptions are not necessary, and many illnesses get better on their own. It's estimated that 5,000 people in England die each year as a result of drug-resistant infections. And they also mention here that Komodo dragon blood is another weird source being checked for potential new antibiotics, which I don't know if you've watched anything on Discovery Channel about Komodo dragons.
I know they've got a terrible bite.
Yes.
You are doomed.
And the bite is not from any venom that they themselves...
it's just funk.
Exactly. It's just bacteria that they have a symbiotic relationship with that build up in their mouth. So they bite you and then the bacteria gets you. Apparently Komodo dragon, because they have all that junk in their mouth, they also have like antibiotic blood that we make in harvest. Let me ask you this: if you get sick with a superbug, would you rather have a platypus milk or would you rather have Komodo dragon blood?
No, I don't know. I'm gonna go with Komodo dragon.
Yeah, me too.
It just sounds better than
That's
platypus.
so metal.
Than platypus milk.
Give me some of that Komodo dragon blood.
Yeah. Because then, I would just drop the Komodo off, and I would just say it's dragon blood.
Yes.
Now that sounds real baller there.
Yeah, and I bet it would sell like hotcakes.
That it would. All right, I've got an article for you. It's a little bit happier this time. So, unless you happen to be the one driving the car. Ford recalls 1.4 million cars because steering wheel can come off.
Oh, wrong one.
Says Ford is recalling 1.4 million vehicles because the steering wheels can become loose and even come off while driving. The automaker says it's aware of 2 accidents and 1 injury that may have been caused by the problem. The affected models are Ford Fusion and Lincoln MKZs, both from the model years 2014 to 2018. Ford said the problem is that a steering wheel bolt could come loose, which could cause the steering wheel to potentially detach. Which just potentially.
Just potentially.
Yeah. So, no, nothing to worry about. And it's quite a few. It's all the Ford Fusions and the hybrids and the Lincoln MKZs. It says the company recalled another 6,000 Fusion and Focus models due to a risk of fire from a fracture in the clutch pressure plate. So some problems going on over there at Ford.
That sounds like a comic book mishap. The steering wheel come off, I mean, that's what happened in the Laugh Olympics when, Motley or whoever would take the little bolt off the other driver's car. I mean, that sounds like a serious problem. There should be stuff in that car's design that stop that from happening. Like the steering wheel just coming off.
Yeah,
while you're driving.
1.4 million cars.
That's a lot.
That even if it was 25 cents to fix, that'll take a hit to your bottom line right there.
And I know when I was 16 years old, the very first vehicle I ever had was a Ford F-150 that my dad bought for me, and I was so proud of that Ford. And there's this whole Chevy versus Ford, and you hear the found on road dead and all this other stuff.
Fix or repair daily. That's what
Fix or repair daily. Maybe there's some truth to that.
Well,
I mean, I don't want Ford's lawyers coming after us.
Well,
but
I never had a problem with Ford or Chevy, but my big thing when I was growing up as a kid was I watched Dukes of Hazzard, and they had the Dodge Charger,
right?
And I thought that was the best vehicle ever. I told my dad I want me one of these when I get of age. This is what I want, and his response was, "You don't want old Dodge, won't crank." So,
well, apparently, I'd rather have a Dodge than a car that the steering wheel is just going to come off of.
A car that won't crank is safer than a car that's running down the road and the wheel comes off.
Well, you've been complaining about some of your stories being gruesome. Well, I tell you what.
All right.
I'm fixing to outdo you here. Headline: Idaho teacher investigated after allegedly feeding a live puppy to snapping turtles as his students watched. Here we go.
That might cause a stir at the next PTA meeting.
Apparently, which I mean, this is Idaho, and he's old school. He probably thought there's no big deal, but an Idaho science teacher is under investigation after allegedly feeding a live puppy to a snapping turtle in front of his students at his school. An animal rights activist, Jill Parrish, filed a police report last week after hearing that the teacher, Robert Crosland, who works in Preston, a small city near the Utah border, fed the puppy to the reptile as students looked on, according to local media. And these animal rights activists, man, they can really get worked up over things like this. This is what she has to say. What I have learned in the last 4 days is disgusting. It is sick. It is sick, Parrish told Lake City TV station KSTU. Allowing children to watch an innocent baby puppy scream because it's being fed to an animal, that is violence. That is not okay, Parrish added. The animal reportedly was terminally ill.
No, well.
So, Do puppies?
We should have just pumped him full of scientifically approved embalming fluid and preserved his brain.
Yeah. Then we could have asked him what he felt.
He could learn to chase the cars in the future when they bring him back.
Or just, run the simulation on the hard drive. He could have been chasing.
So you think of how outrageous this is. I mean, if he'd thrown some mice in there to feed the snapping turtle, nobody would have batted an eye.
Yeah, but a cute puppy.
A puppy is a different level.
Right.
You got mice down here, you got cats right here, and then I'm not playing, but you've got levels.
You think the snapping turtle would have known better? Do they not understand all these different criteria that we judge the cuteness of animals by?
Hungry. His hunger outweighed
apparently
his discernment.
Estelle Hull, a 7th grade student at Preston Junior High, told the station that Crosland usually fed mice or birds to his menagerie of animals, which also includes snakes. I feel a little bit better that it was a puppy that was going to die and not a healthy puppy, she said. Parents Annette Salveson and Julie Johnson told KSTU that Crosland is the best science teacher at the school. If it was a deformed puppy that was going to die anyway, Crosland is very much circle of life, Salveson added. In a statement, the school district said that it is investigating the allegation. On March 7th, 2018, Preston School District was made aware of a regrettable circumstance involving some of the biological specimens at Preston Junior High. The event was not a part of any school-directed program. We emphasize that at no time was the safety of the students or the staff in jeopardy. Meanwhile, the East Idaho News reported that the alleged incident occurred after school hours. So, at least it was, it wasn't part of a demonstration. He was just like, hey, kids, if you want to hang around after school and watch me feed this puppy to this turtle, feel free.
Well, as long as it was after 3, I guess that makes it okay.
Well, I'll be honest, my wife, she says I'm not right. I've got a passing interest in the macabre, so if I would have probably stuck around after school to see that. And I know that makes me a horrible person. I'm just telling it like it is.
That is a disturbing article.
The newspaper said that parents and students regard Crosland as a popular teacher who has snakes and other animals in tanks around his classroom. 3 former students who were asked not to be named said that he had previously on occasion fed guinea pigs to snakes and snapping turtles.
No, that's perfectly fine.
During classroom demonstrations.
Perfectly okay.
He's a cool teacher.
We don't have an arrangement with the guinea pigs.
That's true.
We do with the puppies.
Although guinea pigs, they're cute, right? Don't they do that like little dance on the internet? I know that's early aughts, but
glorified rats.
Yeah. Okay, here, quote, he is a cool teacher who really brought science to life, one of the former students told the paper. I loved his class because he had turtles and snakes and other cool things. He has not commented on this story yet, and he's still teaching and has not yet been suspended. So
well, I don't think the guy needs to be suspended or fired, definitely not. But
right.
He probably needs somebody to talk to him and say, hey, it's probably not a good idea.
It's not good PR.
Yeah.
Which, I mean... the snapping turtle, he didn't feel bad about this. I feel like he probably, if he was out in the wild, he would eat all kinds of stuff. That's just circle
his belly's
of life.
full. He's fine.
Yeah, and it was, I don't know. They say that the puppy was deformed. So was he really even that cute if he was deformed? Is it okay to kill deformed puppies? Or do they have to be cute?
Delicious puppy in my belly.
We're really getting into some morally ambiguous ambiguity here. So,
well, speaking of morally ambiguous, I've got an article for you here. It says, bra bandits stole $11,000 worth of Victoria's Secret's lingerie, Folsom police say.
That's a lot of lingerie.
Well, I wonder what they were going to do with those 4 or 5 bra and panty sets that they got from Victoria's Secret for $11,000.
I don't know. You think they were going to...
Because that's about how much 4 would be, I believe.
They're going to sell it on the black market.
It says a pair... Now, it's bad enough to steal something, but they took it to another level. It says a pair of would-be robbers pepper sprayed a Victoria's Secret's employee Friday while attempting to make off with thousands of dollars of lingerie, according to the Folsom Police Department. Police were called to the store in Palo Alto at Broadstone just before 8 p.m., police said in a Facebook post. An employee had confronted 2 women with several large bags of stolen clothing. One of the women pulled out pepper spray and attacked the employee so the 2 could make their escape. It says the employee was not injured and was able to give the responding officers a description of the getaway car. An officer spotted the car as the 2 women attempted to leave the area. The suspects were identified as Blanca Talia Quintero, 22, of Richmond, and Antone Lestar Welch, 19, of Pittsburgh. So, and one of them had a $100 counterfeit bill with them while they were at it. So, as a person who has been passed a $100 counterfeit bill in the past, they should put her under the jail.
So what happens when you have a counterfeit $100 bill and you try to spend it?
Well,
sometimes it works and sometimes you're just out of $100.
Well, fortunately, I didn't try to spend mine. I just happened to notice after I'd accepted it a little later, I was like, this just doesn't look right.
Yeah.
Now, you would think, why didn't you notice that when they first gave it to you? But I did not. So I called the police, and they're like, "Yep, it's fake, and we'll be taking your $100 bill." So, so I was out the merchandise. So of course it was at yard sale, and the next question you're like, "What idiot takes a $100 bill at a yard sale?" But they bought like a Winnie the Pooh lamp and some other things, and I gave them like $20-$40 in change. I can't remember. So they got my merchandise and $40 of hard cash, and I got egg on my face.
Oh man! So you couldn't like take it to another yard sale and try to pass it
You
on?
could if you like felonies.
What do you, man? Like, man, that really stinks that you're just out $100.
Yeah,
and I mean it wasn't your fault. You didn't counterfeit the money.
No,
man, that stinks.
Oh yeah, it was glorious. I felt like an idiot.
So, which I mean, I guess you can't blame the cops. They got to take it.
Oh yeah.
You know, but man. Maybe
and it was pretty good too. I mean, the problem was when I went to put it with my other bills, it was just a little different size. But I mean, the printing, I mean, it was very slight. I mean, from the naked eye, you wouldn't be able to realize, I don't think. But I mean, the printing and all was very accurate. I mean, it looked legit.
Huh.
So
interesting.
I should have had after that though. I went and bought me some of those pens. So when at the yard sales we had after that, buddy, I was marking those bills,
right.
Making sure.
So,
you ever go to the like the grocery store or convenience store and you give them a $20 bill, or I've given them like a $5 or a $10 or a $5 bill, and they'll mark it, make sure it's real. And I want to whip out when they give me my change. I want to whip my marker out and scan their bills. And I'm like, hey, I'm checking you too, Joker.
Yes, that is brilliant.
So two can play at this game.
Where do you get those markers?
I've got mine at Office Depot. So.
Really? How much were they? Are they? I mean,
no, there's $5 maybe for 3.
Do you know the science behind it? How does it? Is it a certain dye or something?
Bills are really linen, so it's to react somehow with I don't know.
So how do you know if you're using a little marker on a bill? How do you know you got a bad one? Will it not mark?
It shows up if it's real.
Okay.
I guess it doesn't if it's fake. I don't know.
So I could, if I wanted to, I could just take a Crayola marker out of my son's box and just mark bills with it, so people think I'm checking them.
Yes. You could do that.
Yeah.
Or you could take a dry marker and rub it across it and go, "Hey, his bill's fake.
I need another one."
You need to. Why don't you just give this to me? I'll turn it into the police for you.
So if you suspect your dollar or your $100 bill is counterfeit, I guess you maybe donate it to charity and count it off on your taxes. That's how you get your money.
Yeah. Well, back to the article. I know people are sitting on the edge of their seat wanting to know what happened with this lingerie.
Right.
It says the 2 women had managed to abscond with more than $11,000 of lingerie, the Post said. A photo shows they had taken dozens of bras of various shades. So there you go. And it is quite a few from the picture.
Maybe they were planning to open up their own shop. I don't know.
Black market bras.
Well, you want to do that last article, and then we'll finish up with this one?
Okay, sure. This sounds like a situation I would be put in, I'm afraid. It says, giant yellow duck missing off the Washington coast after fleeing swimming competition.
Rubber ducky, you're the one.
Says a giant inflatable duck is missing off the coast of Western Australia. I said Washington. It says WA. It's very confusing. But, Western Australia. Okay. After strong winds whisked it into the Indian Ocean. Daphne, the duck, was meant to be the mascot for last Sunday's Coogee Jetty to Jetty swim. Says the president of the organization, Peter Marr, said he was setting up the event when Daphne took flight in strong winds. So evidently this wasn't a cheap duck, by the way. It wasn't a little duck. And you've seen the videos of when like these little bounce houses and stuff get in a straight line wind and it just whips those suckers and they're gone.
And hopefully your children aren't in there.
Yeah. Well, this says Mr. Marr said Daphne, who cost the club $900 and is the size of a small caravan, had been a point of contention in the club for the past year. I didn't want the duck whatsoever, he said. We're a small organization trying to run a swim that makes money for our club. I knew as I was swimming, so get this, the thing takes a flight. It's flying, so he jumps in the water and tries to swim after it. And he said after a little while he realized, well, that's futile. But he says, as I was swimming, I knew as I was swimming I'd be accused of doing it deliberately. Fishermen have reported sightings of Daphne, including a group who saw her 15 kilometers west of Rottnest Island soon after she broke free. There was also a rumor she had made it as far as Geraldton, almost 400 kilometers north of Coogee Beach. Mr. Marr said the club was offering a reward for Daphne's safe return. They're giving away swimming merchandise and a free entry into next year's swim. And then it says we're expecting a ransom note.
This duck is huge.
Yeah,
if you go click on the link in the show notes, it's pretty neat.
15 feet tall, maybe. It's pretty large.
It is huge, and they've got a little reward poster here printed out.
Help us find Daphne the duck. Last seen at Coogee Beach, Sunday, 11 March 2018, at approximately 5 a.m. while getting ready for the annual Coogee Jetty to Jetty swim. Unfortunately, the easterly breeze then took her out to sea, and we lost her.
So did they not have the thing weighted down at all? I mean, you can't just throw a big, huge 20-foot tall inflatable duck in the ocean and hope for the best.
Hey, man, life finds a way.
Yeah.
She said it was time to leave.
That's awesome that the thing is being like spotted by fishermen and stuff. I hope it washes up like on the shores of California someday.
Yes.
I read an article one time. It was one of those clickbaity articles, like 15 unbelievable things wash up on the shore, and there was like this giant, huge Lego man that washed up. Have you seen that? No. It was like a display, like it was a Lego minifig, but it was huge. It was about the size of Daphne in the picture, and just washed up, fell off a cargo ship somewhere.
My father-in-law found something floating in the Tom Bigby, but I don't think your listeners are prepared to know what it was.
Well, so you can't not tell them now.
We'll just move along.
Okay. Was it a body?
It was a body.
Oh, snap.
It was not a human body. I mean, it was a let's just say it was a doll that was designed for certain aspects of life.
Dude, that's disgusting.
I got you. Well, with that little bit of levity, we're fixing to dive into something a little more serious here. If we have any young listeners out there, you may or may not want your kids to hear about O.J. Simpson. Did you know this? Last Sunday, Fox aired an article that O.J. Simpson did, apparently back in 2006. Were you familiar with this at all?
No. I don't know where you're going with this.
I'm
intrigued. Okay.
Well, of course, we all know this whole story, the media circus, the courtroom, the court case, all this stuff that was O.J. Simpson back in the mid-'90s. Mm-hmm. Well, apparently he was found innocent, but then he was found guilty in a civil trial. Mm-hmm. And a lot of his assets were seized and given to the Goldman family for the murder of Ron Goldman. And In 2006, he wrote a book called If I Did It, Here's How It Happened. I'm assuming the idea was for him to kind of cash in and make some money, because I think all he's got is his NFL pension, which I think is $60,000 a year, which would, it's comfortable for people like me and you,
right.
But for somebody like O.J. Simpson, that's not a whole lot of money. He was going to try to make money off this book, and it was huge. It was super controversial, as I'm sure you can imagine. That went to court, and then the rights for that book were actually taken away from O.J. and given to the Goldman family as well.
Ah.
And they released the book. You can get it on Amazon. It's called, but they changed the title to "If I Did It" instead of "If I Did It, Here's How It Happened." It's "If I Did It, Confessions of the Killer." And on the book they got "if" like written super duper small. So if you're just looking at the cover, it says "I Did It, Confessions of the Killer." But he gave an interview to Fox that was supposed to coincide with the release of this book to, build it up and sell more copies. And after the controversy, this was before it went to court and the rights were taken and everything, and the whole thing was shelved. Well, it was dug up, and it actually aired. It was a 2-hour Fox special last Sunday. I saw parts of it. Did you see any of it at all?
I did not.
Well, I've got a little audio here that we're going to listen to.
O.J. Simpson laughs repeatedly. He laughs when he says how hard it is to talk about his ex-wife's horrific murder. He laughs when he mentions Charlie. A mysterious friend who's not been matched to any real person, who Simpson says came with him to the murder scene. Here's how he describes the crucial moments of June 12, 1994, an account which he repeatedly insists is hypothetical.
As things got heated, I just remember Nicole fell and hurt herself. And this guy kind of got into a karate thing. And I said, well, you think you can kick ass? And I remember I grabbed a knife. I do remember that portion, taking a knife from Charlie. And to be honest, after that, I don't remember, except I'm standing there. And
Simpson infers he blacked out and laughs bizarrely.
I hate to say this, but this is hypothetical. I'm sorry. Right. I know we got to back up again. Right.
And he says he was standing in blood.
I don't think any two people could be murdered the way they were without everybody being covered in blood.
It's all part of Fox's show called The Lost Confession, the only interview Simpson's ever given about the murders of his ex-wife Nicole and Ron Goldman. Fox shelved the 2006 interview following a public outcry. It was originally supposed to be part of a promotion for Simpson's book, If I Did It.
Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder.
But is there any legal action Simpson could still face?
There is absolutely no legal recourse against O.J. Simpson at this point. Double jeopardy prevents another criminal trial. There already is a multi-million-dollar civil judgment against him, which he has avoided to a great extent paying.
Fox says Simpson didn't get paid for this interview, but the fascination with this case endures. In the interview, Simpson, as always, shows no lack of self-pity.
And it's almost like they killed me. Who I was attacked and murdered.
The Goldman and Brown families had opposed the airing of this interview when it was first scheduled to air in 2006 because they didn't want O.J. Simpson making money off the murders. But in a statement just obtained by CNN, an attorney for Fred Goldman said the family now welcomes the airing of the interview because everyone can now make their own judgments.
So I've watched a little bit of this interview, and he claims in the interview, again, he says this whole thing is hypothetical, but he says this person called Charlie comes over to his house and says that something's going on over at Nicole's house, and he's going to go over there and stop it. He claims he had a knife, but he claims he gave it to Charlie, and they go over there, they confront him. I mean, as you kind of heard in the soundbite there, there's a scuffle. He grabs the knife, and he says he blacks out, and he doesn't remember anything past that. He says the next thing he remembers there's, quote, stuff all around. And then when he was pressed by the person giving him the interview, said, what stuff? He says blood and stuff. So it's chilling.
What?
It's very chilling.
What stable person even makes up a story like this?
Exactly. I mean, let's just assume, let's go on a wild, and to be fair, I wasn't there. I don't know what happened, but let's just assume he's innocent. why would you go out and say this stuff
know.
and torture the families, of the victims? That's a horrible thing.
Yeah.
He also says something else in the interview. Ms. Reagan was the one who was interviewing him, and she asked him that if he may have removed his glove when he grabbed the knife from Charlie, the way he was talking about it. And he says, quote, "I have no conscious memory of doing that, but I obviously must have because they found the glove there." Again, hypothetical scenario.
That is nuts.
Yeah, I mean, it's chilling.
Well, see, I remember the story quite well.
Yeah.
Because my mother always took up for OJ. She was a big OJ fan long before this stuff happened. So, and I've got some OJ memorabilia if anybody would like to purchase any.
You better be careful because he'll come in there and take it back.
He just might. He's crazy enough to. And my dad and I were always like, "This dude did it. He's nutso."
Well, just listen to the dude. I got right here.
I hate to say this, but this is hypothetical. I'm sorry. Right. I know we got to back up again.
Right. You're so funny, OJ.
What?
It's just hypothetical.
What a weirdo.
Golly, it is creepy.
Yeah, I'm not an OJ fan.
I can't say I am either.
Yeah, and I hate it for the folks that he was that he harassed or whatever. But I'm glad to know that he was put behind bars eventually.
But he's out now, though.
Well, but what a piece of work this guy is.
Yeah, that's just even if he is innocent, and he may be. Again, I was not there that night, but why would you say this kind of stuff? I mean, I guess the answer is obvious. I mean, he was doing it for money.
Yeah.
Which he didn't get it. It was given all to the family, but I hate to.
That's very disturbing.
That is. All right, let's lay that down and
this show is way too mellow for your music. I mean, the music's great, but the bumper music is like, we ought to be doing some headbanging in here or something. I don't know.
Well, I got some community feedback. We didn't have any reviews last week, so that's a bummer. If anyone out there, if y'all want to go leave us some iTunes reviews, that would be hilarious. We've got some more stuff to give away. I tell you what, I'm going to give away a $10 gift card again this week to people who leave iTunes reviews with 80s lyrics in them. So that's going to be what we do this week. If we get any reviews, that would be hilarious. We did get some listeners to email in. We got one. This one's anonymous, but it says, "Great show, guys. What a wonderful addition the guests bring. Definitely need more Deidre." John's wife, Deidre, was on the show last week. "Her insights and comments were witty and delightful. Glad to hear Pooh Watch has come to its logical end. I feel like I made the best choice possible when I made Earth Oddity my one and only source for news. Many people seem to care more about things that don't matter, such as politics, the environment, or the general welfare of the country and its people. I choose not to get bogged down by simple things and choose instead to focus on bigger issues of life, like Pooh Watch, Bigfoot, breast milk, time travel, and The Bachelor, all in one place. Finally, thank you, Earth Oddity. You have filled a void in my life I didn't even know I had."
Okay.
Well, we thank you, sir or ma'am, and we are glad that you listened to us, and we're glad that you made us your one and only spot for source of news. Because where else are you going to hear about platypus milk fighting superbugs and?
Yes. Lickable platypus. Or would that be platypi?
We also got this one in from Goose. Goose writes in, "Okay, so in your last podcast, you mentioned that folks can email questions, so I have a few that have really been bothering me. Maybe you guys can help. Question number 1, if a mute swears, does his mom wash his hands?"
Definitely.
I think his mom makes him stick his fingers in a mousetrap.
No.
Number 2, if you're driving at the speed of light and you turn your headlights on, what happens? I would think nothing.
Yeah, that's
I don't know.
Question.
Why are apartments called apartments if they're all stuck together? Now, I actually did some research on this.
These are some deep thoughts you've got going here.
Just for you, Goose. I looked this up. I plugged this into the Google machine, and this is what I got back. It said, of course, apartments are stuck together to form one big building. One might wonder why they're called that, but that's a great question. The word apartment comes from the French word apartment, or the Italian word apartmento, both of which mean a separated place. Which I feel like this is just another example of the rest of the world doing one thing and Americans doing it the right way. But apparently, they say that if you think about it, yes, the apartments are all stuck together, but you have all these different people and all these different families who are separated from each other.
So it's not one great big room with a bunch of people living in there. It's apartments. It's separate rooms.
Yeah. And then finally, the last question is, who is cruel enough to put an S in the word lisp? Somebody fact check me on this, but I think it was Mike Tyson. As always, you can email the show. We are earthoddity@planetmail.net. You can follow us on Instagram. We are earth_oddity_podcast. And also, you can follow us on Twitter. We are @_earthoddity. As always, go out and have a great week. We are so glad that you decided to download us and listen to us. Tell your friends. It would really help out if we could get our download numbers up. Big thanks to Mr. John Horton for filling in for John Long.
Happy to do it.
Hopefully John Long will be back later on. He'll be back next week.
Hopefully I didn't cost you any viewers, listeners, I suppose.
Well, I hope not either, because we can spare many. Go leave us an iTunes review. We look forward to seeing y'all next week. All right, we're out of here.
This has been a very odd production. Thanks for listening.